Hello and welcome to Soups and Sabers. My name is Jordan, and with me today, talking Star Wars, as always, is Ron. Herte Ron.
Doing good, man. Tired. This is it's been a marathon week of
Yeah.
recording and editing videos for the channel. This is kind of the last one before we get a little break until Andor next week. But yeah, we got to cap it all off with 2+ hours of Star Wars and one more show here tonight. So I'm excited. We're gonna end off the week with a bang here.
Yeah, we got a comment on the Pod Awakens feed of this, which was Andor coverage? When? And I was like, we're recording Thursday. So, that's probably going to be the day we record is probably like Thursday because it is 3 episodes. So most likely going forward, that's kind of what we're going to be dealing with because we have to find time to watch all 3 of these episodes. And as a new father still, my house is a madhouse even at 9 p.m. that it's hard to like Tuesday night watch this as it drops like I would want to, or like I used to be able to do back in the day. But before we dive into Andor, just wanted to say May 4th, we have some special treat for you today. We recorded it already. It's our May 4th extravaganza. We are having our own Jedi Council draft. 6 rounds where we each, Ron and I and 2 guests, Tiara from Crafting on Elam, you can follow her on Instagram, and Sean from the Force Dyad podcast, where we had them on and we all drafted our own Jedi Council, any era, canon, non-canon, whatever you want it, pretty much, pretty open. And that episode is going to drop May 4th, 9 a.m. Eastern time. Have that scheduled. You don't have to watch it right then, but we're appreciative if you actually set your alarm at 8:55, get up, grab some coffee, a Pop-Tart, and sit in front of your TV and watch the draft because it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, and what better way to start May 4th than with a Star Wars draft, dude? You can see who took Pong Krell. Somebody actually did take Pong Krell in their team, believe it or not. So check
Highly
in.
controversial.
Very controversial. It seems like anytime we do the Star Wars drafts, it's always like chaos. It's very much so. I don't know what it is about Star Wars that brings out that side of us, but who knows?
But yeah, we're kicking off our Star Wars coverage. We did it last weekend with the celebration news. Here on Soups and Sabers, like I mentioned, we've been on the Pod Awakens. We have consolidated the shows into one branding. But we kicked it all off with Celebration. We have Andor coverage coming. We have the May 4th extravaganza. We're going to have a Revenge of the Sith 20th anniversary retrospective that we're going to dive into at the end of May. So a lot of Star Wars content coming for you in May. And then as we start getting into June, we'll be prepping you for Superman and Fantastic Four, which will be coming out in July. So that's kind of the roadmap here for the next foreseeable future. We got 4 weeks of Andor to cover. So let's dive into it. Now, Andor is something you just recently kind of caught up on. We kind of talked about it on the Celebration one, but just kind of give the people that might be joining us for the first time maybe what made you hesitant and then like what got you on board to dive in.
Yeah, so I've always very much been sort of I don't even know if you would call it a Star Wars traditionalist. I feel like that's kind of the bad way to put it because like Star Wars is so many things that it's tough to like to pin down like what is traditional Star Wars. But like I've always been a big like Jedi, lightsabers, the Force, like that kind of side of Star Wars. So like a lot of the criminal underworld and the rebellion stuff, like it's great, don't get me wrong, but it's never really been my Star Wars cup of tea. So it's just never really something I made a priority to watch. And when Andor first dropped, I watched the first 2 episodes and I kind of had a tough time. It didn't really catch me. So put it off for a while, picked it back up, rewatched the first 2 and then episode 3 and kind of had the same problem. And then I went a little longer and then I finally pushed through that barrier of episode 3. And it just obviously anybody who's watched season 1 knows it picks up with the Aldani stuff from there, and then we go into the prison, and it's just like nonstop from there. So once I got through that initial, like, I don't even want to call it a slog because I think it was good. It just like there was so much other stuff I was watching and invested in at the time that it just kind of fell to the bottom of the list, like a lot of things do with busy adults. Everybody out there knows. But once I broke through, I really, really enjoyed the hell out of it. The cinematography, just all of it. It's just very, very, very good Star Wars. Very Game of Thrones-esque Star Wars, which is something that I wanted for a long time and like never even made the correlation of like, oh yeah, this is probably that if you just give it a little bit more time. And everybody said just give it a little more time, but I was stubborn, whatever. But yeah, that's kind of where where I'm at with it now. As Jordan said, I rewatched those last, what was it, 9 episodes? Yeah, after the first arc, yes, because it was 3. So I rewatched those last 9 like pretty recently, so it's all relatively fresh in my mind, and I'm all in now as we get ready to kind of cover the rest of this season today, and it's gonna be good. There's a lot of really good stuff to talk about here for sure. Some maybe not, so I didn't love all of the first 3 episodes we're going to get into today, but far more than not was pretty damn tremendous.
Yeah, and I think when you're talking about it maybe being a little bit of a slow start in the first season, I didn't finish my rewatch in time, so it's going to be fresher for you than it is for me when we're talking about like the latter half of the season. But I remember they dropped all 3 that week, that first day as well, and I remember it was fall of 2022. I guess I didn't have much going on then. I watched all 3 in like one sitting, and that helped, I think, because you're like, even if episode 1 is a little slow or whatever, by the time you get to that 3rd episode of that arc and like shit's going down, it's like, all right. And I left that very impressed. And then you have the Aldani arc, which is consistently great. The prison arc is consistently great, right? Like, and you get to fight the Empire at the end. It all really came around. I really treasure Andor a lot. Like, it's not my favorite of the shows. I do have that distinction of like Mandalorian is my favorite, but it is the best show. Yeah, I know that might sound wrong in that sense, but like if you talk about cinematography, if you talk about acting, the writing, this show is leagues above any other Star Wars show. It's actually kind of what I thought we were going to get when they were saying we're getting streaming Star Wars.
Yeah.
Because even though it seems to be in a high budget, expensive show, there isn't like a lot of like it should be cheaper than it is probably, right? Like I do think like I guess because they're filming on location and that's something that can get costly and stuff, but
and they do have some really big shots like the meteor during Aldani and all that stuff, but like they're few and far between. So
right. But this is kind of what I thought we were going to get, is like what I would call like a Battlestar Galactica for Star Wars type of thing, where you're getting characters in all levels of the rebellion and even the Empire that are being highlighted. I really wish we were getting more than 2 seasons, because I think this is a show that could have been set up very well. And I understand 5 seasons would take a long time in today's television when this took 3 years, 2.5 years. Part of that was the strike. I think we would have got this last year if not for the strike.
It's funny. I was thinking of just because of how successful this show is, I was like, would Star Wars ever have the balls to retcon Rogue One and like the ending there, like kind of like a like an Infinity War when the Guardians are flying their ship and Thor just crashes into their windshield? Like, like Cassian just crashes into fucking like Ahsoka's windshield in season 2. I've been floating in space for 17 years.
And Grogu's like trying to wipe him off of the front of the thing.
Oh God.
No,
We're
if
joking, by the
anything,
way. Please God, we're
yes,
joking out there
yeah.
for
If
anybody.
anything, they're doubling down. It sounds like the from what they've talked about, like Tony Gilroy and stuff, that final arc is going to lead like right in to
Yeah.
Rogue One, which is great. I love Rogue One a lot. So like having this be the perfect prequel. I remember when this was announced, and I was kind of like, not one of those who asked for it, but you're kind of like, all right, like a Cassian show, like sure.
Yeah.
And I think if it wasn't for Rogue One, and let's say they were just Tony Gilroy came to them and said, we're going to create a show about the rebellion, I don't think this would be called Andor. Because as we're going to get into it, he has like the least amount of stuff to do in these 3 episodes for a
Yeah.
show named after him.
Yeah.
But it's because he is the bankable guy because he was in Rogue One that they called this Andor. I really think this would be called something like Dawn of the Rebellion or
Yeah.
like something else other than a Star Wars Game of Senate or something.
No, let's stick with Andor. Andor's fine.
But like if it like I don't know if they're creating this from scratch. They're like, we're naming this after Cassian. Or
Yeah.
they would have called it Cassian actually, because they call him Cassian more than they call him Andor, like at all in this, which I think is pretty interesting. But yeah, he had the least to do in these episodes. So I guess let's just give our general thoughts on these 3, and then we'll kind of go character by character, and what they're up to.
Yeah. So as I mentioned, it was, there was some things that I wasn't super duper thrilled with. The use of Cassian in the first 2 episodes being one of them. It was a little slow to start, and we saw like a lot of the sort of general reviews from people who've seen the whole thing, and that seemed to be kind of a general sentiment of like, yeah, the first 3 are a little slow to get going, but much like in season 1, once it really picks up, it's gonna get hot and heavy very quick. So it seems like that's going to be the case. Episode 3 was an absolute banger. It's one we're going to be talking about for a while. Maybe my favorite episode of the show so far of either season. I really, really enjoyed the hell out of it. A lot of memeable moments too. But yeah, I really enjoyed what we saw on the wedding side. That felt definitely the most Game of Thrones it's felt so far. It's a good thing we're not playing a Game of Thrones drinking game here, because we would all be very drunk already. But it definitely, just everything that was going on there felt very Thrones, down to what's his name getting in the cab at the end, and it's Cinta as the driver. I was like, ooh, what's his name?
Going down.
There's so many damn names in this show.
I have it. Hold on. Tay
Colma.
Yes.
There we go. Yeah,
I love, by the way, this actor. He was in a British show I watched back on my first college program, 2013. It's a show called Coupling, if people have heard of that. It is pretty much British Friends. Okay? And he was the Joey-esque character. And seeing him in this is like mind-blowing, because he's just bringing it at a totally different level than like being the dumb hot guy on like the Friends, British version.
Yeah. And it's funny because like the second that I saw like him and he was a little drunk on screen, before like all of the like I'm feeling underappreciated and all that stuff started, I was like, oh, this is going to be a problem. Like, just this isn't going to be good. So that entire thing I thought was great. I love Vel, so seeing her back, even though she didn't have too much to do in these first few, but it was good to see everybody. Now that I'm like fully on the Andor train, it was just good to be in the show and have it back. And yeah, dude, there was even some really fun Easter eggs in there, some deep cut Star Wars Easter eggs that we'll get to. So all in all, I liked him a lot. The stuff that I really liked far outweighed anything that I didn't. And I think it was a decent start to the season. Like I said, a little slow, but that's okay. Because if people are to be believed, this back 9 is going to be really something.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I do think episode 3 is like the best of the bunch. And, I alluded to it. Cassian doesn't really have much to do in the first 2, but I didn't hate that part as much as others. Like I saw people really ripping into the actors as well of those
Ah,
rebels, and I was like, that seems harsh. I didn't really think anything was out of place with them as actors or anything. Like we've had worse acting in Star Wars by far. So
they were going for like a slightly comedic, group of people on their own who don't really have it all together, but are trying to
yeah,
act
no
like they have it
leader.
all.
No
Yeah,
leader, which is what the rebellion has been so far at this
yeah,
point has been rebel cells that have not come together. And that's what this whole
exactly.
show is about, is getting under a central leadership, which is what we're going to see Mon Mothma become part of, and Bail Organa, and
Yeah,
who knows what happens with Luthen as we go. But that's kind of the whole point of the show, is showing how dysfunctional the rebels are at this point. Like they're all on the same side
yeah,
in this scene. But I am just very happy to have the show back as it is, because like I said, the writing is just at another level. You mentioned the wedding scene being like Game of Thrones. I really felt more like, I don't know, just like prestige TV
yeah.
as a whole. Like there
Mhm.
are obviously, like I would say the most Thrones this stuff would be like when they're speaking Chandrilian and like
Yeah.
doing the whole you take this knife and all that
Hmm.
kind of stuff.
Yep.
But the like that scene between Mon Mothma and her daughter about like you don't have to do this felt very like just normal drama stakes
Hmm.
that felt like I am so captivated by the Mon Mothma stuff. I really am. Like
Yeah.
even in season 1, that's been like my favorite storyline has been like the Mon Mothma stuff, because I love her as an actress. She's been great every time they brought her back since that deleted scene of Revenge of the Sith, coming up on 20 years of her
Yeah.
playing Mon Mothma. And just like the inner workings and seeing like her home life stuff, I never thought we would get from Mon Mothma, like ever. Um,
Yeah.
but this has just been what I have really enjoyed, and like getting to know like Perrin and Tay and like her relationship with Luthen. It's very like love hate, we gotta team up type of stuff that she has
Yeah.
with him, right? Like
Yeah. It's
just so
very funny.
captivating.
It feels like every single time that she's on camera, almost, it's like she has a conversation and she's like, haha, like so happy. Then she just turns away and it's just
Eye
like,
roll, like I'm
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
hating this.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Yes. Oh man. No, it's great. Yeah, it's when we were first talking about my impressions of the first season just off camera, I said that the Mon Mothma stuff like got a little laggy for me at times, and a lot of like, who the hell's this guy, kind of stuff, because there was just it felt like some random new rich person in the
Tay.
I'm having a total brain fart. Yeah, whether it's Tay, whether it's the guy who's trying to get her to
Davo.
marry. Yes, it's just like I just didn't really know who these people were, and I didn't know why I
Yeah.
should care. And like they just jumped so much right into it with Mon in the beginning of this season. It was like a total 180 for me. It was by far my favorite part of the entire 3 episodes.
That's where I feel like it is very Game of Thrones. Is I remember people having trouble getting into Game of Thrones because that first
Mhm.
episode just drops you in
Yep.
and just alludes to connections, and you're like, I gotta figure this out. Like
Yeah.
I gotta, figure this out through dialogue and through context clues and stuff like that. And that's where
Mhm.
people will be like, just keep watching. And then like later on, you'll really hate Joffrey and all these characters because you'll pick up on that stuff as you go. And I think Andor is the same way in that regard of like, just drop us in. We figure out through context clues like Tay is like her childhood friend,
Mhm.
and you get all that stuff as you go throughout the season, and
Yeah.
this kind of like dirty deal that they have to make to make this money kind of go away. And to do that, she pretty much has to kind of like sell her daughter, but like her daughter is for this too. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
where she's very like traditionalist, it sounds like for Chandrilla, right? Where it
Mhm.
used to be like arranged marriages and stuff like this, and that's what Mon Mothma was kind of preaching as she gives her conversation with her and like wipes the tears away when her daughter's pretty
Mhm.
much like, I wish you were drunk like your mom, like that, like a really rough guy. I guess we're just starting. We're starting with Mon Mothma and this.
Yeah.
Like that's who we're gonna start with on this
Yeah.
episode. On
Works
this
for me.
because it is, I think, some of the most interesting stuff. And you have Luthen who is there, and Luthen is working with Davo in the sense of he has brought that like statue that has
Yeah.
been like missing, and he's the one that found it and stuff. But it that's not why he's there. It seems like he is there to kind of put more tabs on like, is Tay going to kind of be trustworthy? And that leads to the end where Cinta is the one driving Tay and filling in for his, driver. And I think that's the last we'll see of Tay.
I'd imagine so. Yeah, and not even just Tay. I think he's just there to like put an ear to the ground, because there's a few different times where he's like, he goes like Varys mode a little bit, where he's like all like nice and floofy. Oh, repeat that. Like, it's like he's just basically going around and prodding for information anywhere he can. Yeah, so he's definitely there for strategic purposes for sure. And honestly, it might be a good thing that he was, because if he wasn't there, I don't know if Mon would have had the gall, the stomach to be able to pull a move like that on her childhood friend. And if she hadn't, if Tay had been able to leave that place, it could have gone very bad. But like you said, I'd imagine we won't be seeing him too much going forward.
No, and I just gotta give it up as well. Like, I didn't get a chance to really cover this show the first time on Pod Awakens because I didn't have anybody else watching it that I knew. It's before we made all these connections and before I met you and everything. And it was also at a time where I was not doing as much Pod Awakens stuff. That was kind of like 2022 was a lull year for me where I didn't really do it. And I kind of came back full force in April of 2023. And Stellan Skarsgård is so good as Luthen.
Yeah.
He gets that great speech in one of the episodes of season 1, which was like one of the best monologues written for Star Wars, and he just continues to do it here. He plays, like you said, this kind of aloof guy who's like this collector of items, and puts on this totally different persona in the public. But when he is out there, doing the stuff for the rebellion, he is putting it all on the line. He's been, fighting this fight for however long, and he is just a master force in the acting. It really makes me sad that they've kind of dropped the ball on Selvig in the MCU, because he is just like so good, in this role, that you're like, man, if they could still use him in Marvel, because they could, but I mean, like, they're not giving him this type of material either. So this is
no.
Just, he's been so great. I love him so much.
Yeah. No, me too, dude. The range he's showed, I mean, just in these episodes alone, is great. And he's a little like kind of hardened to it at this point, right? It's like he's almost like, I don't want to say he's so deep into the forest he can't see the trees or whatever the hell that metaphor is, because he is very it's more that he's like he's seen so much that he's just like willing to go above and beyond and just do whatever it takes for the rebellion, even if it, comes at the expense of some of his own, maybe. We see that like really charged moment last season between him and Saw, and like the idea of him like wanting to kill Cassian after everything that happened on Aldhani, just so, he wouldn't be around to talk. Like, it's just a very brutal, war-hardened character. He plays it so well. And then to go to that, to, the pish-posh guy at the party, like, charmed, like, it's just like, wow, dude. Yeah, he's by far one of the best parts of the show.
All right, so Mon Mothma, what's your thoughts on Perrin here? I know he gets a lot of shtick online.
The part where the viral like clip of Mon dancing, when it cuts to him really quick and he's like doing that weird hand thing, kind of fucked me up a little bit. I don't know, very awkward dance. I don't know.
It's like me trying to dance.
Yeah, I feel It's tough with Perrin because like there's some of his gripes that like you can kind of understand in terms of like maybe especially in the first season of like Mon being a little more distant and like things like that. But he also seems like kind of a sleazeball, like a gambler, and like maybe has some secrets that we're not entirely sure about. So it's tough. I think he's very much kind of a shades of gray character right now. By the way, in the finale, there is in that scene where Mon is asking him in the cab about his gambling, and she's like makes the comment about the cab driver, and he's like, "Oh, he's not listening." And then at the end of that scene, it shows the cab driver, and he was like 100% listening. There was a lot of discussions in that cab going on throughout season 1, like that probably could have got some people in trouble. So that's going to be coming around at some point this season. That guy, whoever was her personal driver, like is a mole for somebody. I don't know who. It's going to be very interesting to see. I mean, we know the Empire, but like who in particular. So that's going to be very interesting to see at some point this season. Crap, I went on a little tangent there. What was my original point?
Just about Perrin. I think
Perrin,
he is a
right.
very. I think this is what is so interesting about the shows. I think he's a very complex character, right? We see like he's got the gambling issue. We also see like when they're having like last season when they're having like the dinner party, and he's like not anti-imperialist, right? He also doesn't want his daughter to get married, really. He was kind of more of like not as for it the way that the daughter is. So I think he has that kind of like morally gray situation, because I would also understand like why I he's kind of become a meme of people like man, Mon Mothma married this guy that is just like awful,
Total
or like
chode,
yeah. But also it's like, hey, you got an evil empire out there who is maybe going to put pressure on you if you don't succumb to certain things. I can also see why maybe he is a little bit more like, oh, we got to kind of just do what we got to do. And,
yeah. Well, it's very easy for him to say that, they're rich.
Yeah.
They live the good life. Like, why rock the boat, Yeah.
Yeah. I just noticed the picture you have on your monitor behind you. I did not notice it till now.
My girl Mon ripping shots. Come on now.
She's like, you want me to be drunk? I'm gonna get drunk. That was her thing. She took after her mom here.
Dude, I cannot emphasize how many times I've listened to that song since yesterday. Like it's just been on repeat. That music that's playing. Yeah. Oh yeah, I'll send it to you. Yeah, it's very good. It's like mesmerizing, dude. It really is. So good.
Yeah, the music in this whole episode was great, really. Like we'll get to there's music when Deidre and Cyril are setting the table that is just like immaculate music that I was like, I love this. Kind of sounded like synth 80s or something. I don't know. It was nice.
Mm-hmm.
But no, yeah, Mon Mothma goes kind of off the deep end here and starts, chugging drinks as she is going there. We also see her cousin Vel, who is there, right, as well. So she hasn't had much to do yet, but she saw Cinta at the end, and we'll see where we go from here. Because if I'm not mistaken, we should have another year jump next set of episodes from what I
really.
Yeah, because from what I remember is each arc is a year, to lead up to Rogue One.
Okay, cool, interesting.
So we're really gonna burn through some stuff here too.
Some time. That's because wow. So yeah, with Vel, she alludes to the fact that her and Cinta aren't like together anymore. She makes the comment like if she wanted to see me, she would, sort of thing. And there was also a little bit of sort of tension maybe with her and Clea. Luthen's like sort of right hand girl. So maybe that's something, when we'll come back in these episodes and it'll be like, oh, now they're together. Like, who knows? Maybe that's something we'll explore. I hope she does get more. I mean, she was a great character in season 1. So I didn't really much love seeing her sidelined in that way. But I do think parting off with that shot of her and Cinta, like doing like the two cars passing meme like thing, just like staring at each other. I think that'll be a setup for her to sort of get more involved in this next arc.
All right. Anything else about Mon Mothma or anybody at the wedding?
No, I don't think so. I think we got it all pretty good. Yeah, no, we got everything covered on my end for the wedding. Yeah.
Let's go.
I will say, just you did touch on it a little bit, but like the ceremony itself was very cool. I love like seeing that sort of like customs of different areas and things like that. Like we see a lot of the like Naboo type stuff in the prequels. Like I just love seeing the customs of each part of the galaxy like that in new Star Wars projects. So that was pretty cool.
Yes, and this is where fans can get annoying in the sense of Tony Gilroy is not a Star Wars fan by pretty much all admission, right? Or not to the level of other people, but like when we have certain adaptations, right, that come out of either DC Comics, Marvel Comics, what there was one that Ronald Moore was working on that people were like, oh, it's a video game one too. Oh, God of War. He's working on God of War, and he hasn't played the games, right? Because he's not good at video games. I'm sure there's ways that he can get that information without playing the game, right?
Yeah.
But when you look at what Tony Gilroy is doing, without being like this deep knowledge of Star Wars, this deep wealth of Star Wars knowledge, not being a big fan of the universe itself, but is still able to pull off like Chandrilian weddings. These are episodes he wrote, right? Like he's not leaning on anybody else for that. He probably has some stuff resources he can look at, or like he's making up some stuff on what this is, that's getting approved by the story group or whatever. But it just goes to show you don't have to be a fan of the material to really like elevate material. And, that's one thing that I always see when people are like, oh, they hired this person. Oh, well, are they a fan of the stuff? It shouldn't matter, right? Like as long as they're good at their job, they are.
In a lot of cases, it could even be better to not come in with like
reverence for the material.
Just feeling the weight of like, oh my God, this is Star Wars, but also like feeling like it's like, oh, gotta include this in there, gotta include that in there. It's like, no, dude, just do your thing and trust that the people at Lucasfilm will like tell you, that doesn't work, this works, that works. Like, and when you just like get it as close to your own vision without all of that preconceived like crap in it. I don't want to say crap because a lot of Star Wars lore is great, but like when you could just bring your specific vision to life, we get things like we saw, which was cinematically and just in terms of substance, like one of the coolest things we've seen recently. So yeah.
And it's like he knows the story he wants to tell, which is about this, rise of the rebellion and them coming together and fighting against an evil tyranny. And he's doing that so well that then you just add that from the base story, you add the ancillary stuff that makes it Star Wars, and it's strong, and I think that is what he's doing, and it's been great. So
hell yeah.
Just want to shout that out since you pointed out the wedding thing, because I was like, yes, that's something I wanted to bring up on here. Let's go.
We are one brain. I said, hive mind, one brain.
Let's go to Cyril and Dedra, because these are my favorite power couple of the show. I love Cyril so much. This actor is phenomenal, by the way. I also saw him in the Netflix show Bodies, where he plays a like detective in the 1800s, because it takes place over like 3 or 4 different time periods, and they're all kind of solving the same thing, same sort of crime across like 3 decades. And he plays a really great role in that. He's very good in that as well. But like, and in that, I was like, oh my God, it's Cyril, Now I'm watching it like, man, I've seen more of this guy's work, and he's just really phenomenal. So, everybody in this scene here, as they're having dinner, that's the main focus, right? This third episode, like we kind of build to this in the other ones, but this third episode is focusing on his mother, Edie, who is visiting for dinner. And I just love this this whole scene. We have Cyril, who's like dejected and embarrassed by his mother. We have Dedra, who doesn't really care to make a good impression amongst his mom.
No.
And I think that is what is kind of her strength, right? Like, I feel like most people want to make that great impression amongst their in-law. But I just want to read this quote because I wrote it down because I love this quote. This is from Dedra, who says, like, this is over. I'll make sure he visits you twice a month. I'll make sure he calls you. I will guarantee a level of engagement, but it will be inversely proportional to the volume of anxiety you generate in our lives. Just what a banger of a quote from Dedra here. She is... That is just something you want to say to people that are giving you a hard time. It's like, look, I'm going to make sure he calls you and visits you. But I want you to know that us doing so is going to generate like is going to be not worth how much anxiety you're putting on us in our lives right now. Just like, what a great quote. And it just shows how good the writing is on that scene.
Yeah, I was, one of my favorite like parts of season 1 was that like unspoken tension between Cyril and Dedra that like at first I was like, nah, they're not going to go there, are they? Oh, it seems like they're going there, are they? Oh, or aren't they? Oh yeah, we're definitely going there. And like just everything about this sort of first arc for them was like so funny, such a good little change of pace, and there was some seriousness in it too, like the stuff with Dedra and Krennic and stuff. But it was largely their presence in this whole thing, especially Cyril was just the comedic relief, it felt like, but it worked.
When he's on the face down on the bed.
Yes, dude, so funny.
He's like, excuse me, I'll be right back.
I even loved like the sort of visual choices that they did. Like their apartment is just so black and white, very like industrial.
Imperial.
And then the mom,
very imperial.
Yeah. And then the mom comes in just decked out in this bright, vibrant orange, like just such a good physical, like visual representation of like the difference between them and like how, obviously Cyril's dressed like Dedra and just very much going to show that like he's not the mama's boy, or I guess he kind of is, only like his mama's Dedra now. So
yeah.
Like,
oh yeah.
Yeah. So no, it was great, dude. Very funny. Even like the weird, like everything felt so specific. Even like the way that they're eating. And what does he say? Like, mother, you're dripping, or something like that. Like just stab it into the food, like while they're eating all prim and proper.
This is how I'm going to like eat my cakes now. Just like with the spoon, like clunk, 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 clunk.
Like just such a contrast between the sides. Like they did such a good job of emphasizing that.
And a contrast to last season, having breakfast or dinner with her every day, and like how there was no one to stand up for him then. And Dedra's there this time to be like, cut it out.
Yeah.
He's my man.
Yeah.
Right? I tell him what to do.
Yeah. Cyril's had himself a pretty good year too. He got himself a nice little promotion.
He's like introing the people that used to do his job, right? He's like, I used to do this, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. Dude, so crazy because he was such a prick during the first arc. Like, for him to now be one of my favorites. He is. Oh, he is. But he was the type of prick in the first 3 that it was like kind of Ramsay Bolton. Like, I just want to see this guy be killed in like the most painful way possible. Like, now he's like by far one of my favorite parts of the show. He's great. He's another one with a ton of range. Like, he can play a menacing, prickish, soldier just as easily as he can play like the dork getting yelled at by his mom. You know what I mean?
Seriously, watch Bodies, or anybody listening, watch Bodies on Netflix. It's based off of a Vertigo comic, actually. But he plays like a role that you really sympathize with in that show, and it's just so 180 from like that first season, first arc of Serial. But yeah, count me in. I've been saying it. Count me in the 0% on the app that I use to track my TV shows. It always asks who's your favorite, and I was like, I'm voting Serial. Who usually eats cereal, and it said I was part of 0%, as most people picked Cassian and Mon Mothma.
Wrong. Sorry. You're right.
I was like, what did Cassian do in episode 3? All right. Nothing.
Nothing.
Why is 53% voting Cassian right now?
And like the part when she grabs his face too, it's just like, oh man, there's a power dynamic going on here for sure. Yeah.
I love it too when she's like asking about the certain tea that she wants to have, and they're like, no, we don't have that, and he's kind of like, I can go down there, like I'll go down there and get it.
Yeah.
And the mom's like, no, that's not I want to spend time with Cyril, like why would I send him away as soon as he gets here, type of thing. But she's still bothered by the fact that they don't have the tea.
Yeah.
She's just like that hard to please mother that's like never happy.
Reminds me a lot of like Tony Soprano's mom, very much so.
I haven't seen The Sopranos, so I don't know.
Oh, what? Really? Yeah. Bruh. Oh my God. Missing out.
That was back in the day when I didn't have I didn't have HBO. So anytime I watched an HBO show would be borrowing from the library. I'd have to get the season. That's how I watched Curb Your Enthusiasm back in the day. It's like, oh, the library has it. And I was like going through the 5 seasons they had then.
Anybody under 20 listening to this, like, what's a library?
Yeah, what's a library? I still use it, by the way. They support your local library. If you want to read like the Star Wars High Republic books or whatever, that your library may have it, or they might have the audio book through an app called Libby, which is how I listen to some of the audio books. Because what I'll sometimes do too is like have the physical book and read that at home. And then if I'm out somewhere, listen to the audio book by picking up the chapter I left off on. That's something I suggest too. If you're somebody that's like, how am I supposed to read all of these High Republic books or these Star Wars books or whatever type of book without spending a bunch of money? Your local library. Yeah. If you are under 20 and you're like, what's a library? Just like look up what's my local library. I'm sure Google will tell you where it is. Kind of with Dedra and Cyril, let's talk about Krennic. I love having Ben Mendelsohn back. He also is just fantastic in this. When he's given that little speech about like unlimited power and everything, like Ben Mendelsohn is just like chewing scenery and that. Like he's having a hell of a time reprising his role as Krennic. Yeah.
No, it was great to see him back. And I'm not too familiar with the upcoming. The people that work on the show have already confirmed that this is coming. The Gorman Massacre. Are you familiar with that?
No, not as much. It is something that has happened in canon, I guess. It also may have happened in Legends. But it happened, I think we might still have a little bit of ways to go for that, because
for sure. Yeah.
Some people were guessing it's the next arc, but I think it might be 2 arcs from now, because we're in 4 BBY right now in this arc. The Gorman Massacre took place in 2 BBY. So if each one's a year, next arc would be 3 BBY, and then episodes, what would that be? 7 through 9 would be the Gorman Massacre, if we're going through that. It is, let me see where I can find where it has been most heavily featured, I guess. It was first mentioned in a game through a source book through Fantasy Flight Games for Forged in Battle in 2016.
Oh, interesting.
It also says that it originated in Legends continuity in 1990 with the Rebel Alliance source book, but had a different canon date back then.
Okay. Well, yeah, that's basically what we're seeing the seeds of here. Basically,
yes.
the Empire is overtaking, occupying, I guess would be the word to say it, the planet of Gorman, and essentially trying to strip it of its minerals to what is it, power like the reactors on the Death Star, something like
Yeah.
that. And it without, I don't have a lot of info on the Gorman massacre. I didn't want to look up spoilers for it just because like I'm really enjoying the show and I don't want to know what's going to happen like going in. But my guess is that the people who live on Gorman aren't going to be very happy about that. It's funny too because we see so many real world like political parallels in this, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like we see the two guys at the front sort of being like the propaganda department, right? Talking about how they're going to spin this and how they're going to make for the rest of the galaxy, make the people of Gorman look selfish and like not wanting to share and stuff. Just so many real political themes here, which is, I mean, every single Star Wars, that's the case, but very much one of the highlighting points here is that they're trying to show that sort of real world governmental like thing in this hostile takeover in the way that a lot of countries do that in the world today. So I'm very interested to see how that sort of hostile takeover advances over these. I mean, I didn't know it was going to be, each arc was going to be a full year. That's interesting. So we're going to have a big time skip. It sucks. We're probably going to miss a lot of that initial occupation. I'm guessing by the time we pick up again, Gorman will already be like very much sort of like an empire state. I don't know if that's like what you would even call it, but they'll be fully occupied at that point. The empire will be in pretty firm control. And it'll just really be about like building the rebellion there, I guess.
Yeah. We have this great scene where Krennic is talking at the Malthine Divide, which is like this you know what it reminds me of, and I'm sure this is why. It kind of reminds me of the Red Skull base in First Avenger. Where it looks out the mountain and everything, which is based off, I think, Hitler's own place. So I think that's very
intentional,
mm-hmm. But it just looks so cool with like this building like on the edge of the mountain. Mm-hmm. Bad Batch actually had a very similar type of look. I feel like one of their locations that Krennic was in as well. I think they had Ben Mendelsohn voiced him in Bad Batch as a CG character.
Yes.
But yeah, so they're at the like you said, there's like this tourism video that sounds very like I love this, by the way. It's very
it was awesome.
I'm trying to figure out what year I'm placing this in. Like a very like 50s, 60s tourism video of the Great Valleys of Gorman.
Reminds me a little bit of Fallout, like the Fallout video.
I can see that. Mm-hmm. That's what it's very similar to that. Or like I've been playing LA Noire lately, and like a lot of that type of vibe of like that Tom Kane type of intro voice for the Clone Wars, like over top of a tourism video is kind of what that sounded like.
Come to Gorman.
Yes. But yeah, so his, unlimited power, I kind of love that they use that wording because of what Palpatine used, but they're talking more of like energy independence, that they're talking about, not like just power.
Yeah.
But it's like this energy initiative.
Well, that is what they're talking about, but this is how they're spinning it to the people, that it's an energy initiative. But in reality, they're looking to take these resources for themselves to power the Death Star. Like, that's all they give a shit about.
Yeah, but I also don't think like, obviously Palpatine is talking about powering a Death Star either when he's talking about unlimited power. It's just like very like just like where you're talking about that same sort of wording, but using it for totally different reasons, but it just makes sense with that position. But yeah, the mineral is called calcite that they were looking for, and it is to coat the reactor lenses for the Death Star. And they want to do that within 3 years because, we're at 4 BBY. 3 years would be 1 BBY. They get the Death Star operational in that last year, pretty much, like right before the movie. So that's kind of their time frame that they're aiming for. But it's a very invasive process that they'll, like you said, that they'll have to go ahead and probably. The planet is home to 9 cities and 800,000 Gormans.
I'm interested too to see how the relationship between Dedra and Krennic kind of progresses, because when they first talk, like Krennic specifically tells her, like, I like was the one responsible for getting you here. Like, I wanted your mind and your input here. And she's not very on board with the occupation. And I'm wondering if what started as a very, like, oh, I wanted to bring you here type of relationship turns into a butting of heads. And like maybe Dedra is a bit more of a thorn in his side, not really liking the way that Krennic is going about this whole Gorman thing. This character Dedra, was she just from this show? Like, Is there any like, okay, there's no like pre-established like other Legends lore or anything like that?
Not that I know of.
So I almost wouldn't be surprised at some point if we see her at like by the end of the show, like maybe turn face a little bit.
Well, that's what I was going to ask. Like, what is the fate of these Imperials when we're talking about our main two of Cyril and Dedra, who are this power couple who kind of got off on like being Imperials and, finding, this kind of mole that they were trying to find originally and all that. But like, they were very dedicated to the Empire, even though she experienced some of that like sexism of people like stealing ideas and like, kind of putting her down. Where do we see these two going? If she makes the turnabout, does he, or does that become a thing? Like, do they end up the series dying? Are they like on the Death Star when this thing gets blown up? Like, where do we see them going?
I'm going to say just piecing this together now. This isn't like a theory I've had or anything, but my call is going to be that during the Gorman massacre, like they'll all be there, like because Dedra is going to be obviously like stationed there, you'd imagine, with Krennic and all them. Whatever happens, it's going to lead to Cyril dying. And it's going to be like either something Krennic sent them on a mission that she wasn't like super down for, or something like that, to where it's going to basically be the Empire's fault that Cyril dies. And then somehow out of that is going to spin her face turn. We got to see a lot more before I formulate the specifics of that. But just if I had to throw something on the wall right now, like, yeah, I feel like a turn is coming for her. I think she's going to end up helping the rebels in some way, shape, or form. I'm not really sure how, but I do think she's going to end up turning good by the end of the show. And I do think Cyril's going to die.
That'll be a sad day for me.
Me too, man. I like him.
Very sad day. If that
happens. I also think in the process he'll probably end up like turning too. Like, I think it'll be
they become like informants for Cassian or something
like that. Yeah, and it'll be like the full circle thing of like, he was basically like the face of the oppression to begin the show, and by the end he's like helping them. Very much the same thing for Dedra. It would be sort of a cool full circle thing.
All right, let's get to the last few characters we got to talk about with Bix and Brasso and Cassian. So we can kind of knock out these here. This was the controversy, right? This is an evil empire, but you know what? They do draw a line. According to some fans. Darth Vader
would not approve this shit, dude. He simply would not. Would not. Almost destroyed the whole first 3 episodes of the show for me. It's all I could think about watching it.
You're thinking with the wrong head, Commander.
No. Oh God.
Oh man. I wish I actually knew what rank he was. That would have been better. But anyway.
I know. but yeah, dude, very good, very heavy kind of stuff. Was not
Yeah.
expecting it. Between the head crush that we saw in Daredevil last week and this, like Disney is on some shit this week, man. But it was very well done, I think, and I think done in a way that again is another real world thing. Like these soldiers overseas that you hear like these awful, heinous things they do to the natives of the countries that they're occupying, like a very real thing that happens. And like to sit there and act like just because it's Star Wars that it's like that's a no-go zone. It's like, no, dude, they're the evil empire. This is what they do. Like even just taking the jokes aside of it, of the like Vader wouldn't allow that. Like when you look at it, I'm sure there were plenty of, go through any evil dictatorship or anything like that. Like there are cells and little groups of like soldiers and people who uphold that law who do so in a much more vicious and sort of power hungry and abusive way than others. They're all evil, but there are some that are like a step above. And this is a very adult show. And I don't think it was out of bounds at all to highlight that. I think it added a lot of weight to this entire episode, I think.
Yeah. This is a heavy subject, like you said. And it got I guess I could say I did expect it because I didn't get around to it right away, and it became the talk of Star Wars Twitter around because of not just Theory's tweet, but there was other people out there complaining about this. Or I can understand kind of if it's like triggering for you, or if you're like, look, Star Wars is my escape. I didn't really want to see this, but we're also talking about like to act like it is out of bounds for the Empire when they've enslaved Wookiees, when they've killed children, and again, so you're saying Anakin has a line. That's what some people are saying, or whatever. When he is part of a empire that has enslaved people, when he was a slave as well, he doesn't draw a line anywhere, right? At that point, he is Vader. He is no longer Anakin. So he is part of this evil empire that wants unlimited power. How do they get unlimited power? By exploiting people, by whether through slavery, whether through a genocide, which we might see here with the massacre, with sexual assault, with murdering people. I mean, this is
millions
what
of
those people do.
Like, dude, it's one of those things where it's tough to put it into perspective because we're talking about something that's not real. We're talking about Star Wars here. But if you like equate it to real world, the amount of deaths that the Empire and like Darth Vader, even himself / Anakin is responsible for, if you were to put that body count on somebody like in the real world, they would be like by far head and shoulders even worse than like the evil dictators that we know to be so awful. Like they would pale in comparison to Darth Vader, dude. So like to act like there's anything that would be out of bounds to him just because at the end of the story his son saw him to see the light, like no, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, and this guy absolutely deserves what he gets here.
Yes, dude, that's brutal. She smacked the shit out of that guy.
And everybody is complicit in this, by the way, because the guy who is out there, is able to hear the Imperial scream, which means he probably heard Bix scream. The door is open. This is probably something this guy does all the time, and he did not care until this guy was dead.
Yeah.
And then he still didn't care that he was trying to force himself on her. So I mean, like he was like, he's dead. Like I'm gonna kill you now. Is pretty much what this guy was trying to do.
Yeah.
And that is sometimes how it happens, right? When you're talking about some sort of either army or police force or some sort of issue like that, where they have each other's back because they are one of them, instead of putting a stop to it. There's a reason that guy's probably out in the thing. Maybe he's like, I'm the good one because I wasn't the one going to do it, but he wasn't the one going to stop it either. So
yeah.
No,
but it was like we said, just a very heavy, very real thing that I was not expecting to see at all in this. But I'm glad they did it, but I don't want people to hear that and be like, "What the fuck do you mean you're glad they did it?" I'm glad they did it because it highlighted a very important thing, and it started a very real dialogue, even if a lot of it spurred from one dumbass tweet. It spurred a lot of very hopefully opened up a lot of people's eyes. Maybe, I don't know, maybe that's just wishful thinking, but I think it was a powerful thing to include, and it was done in a way that was very well. So Tony Gilroy, good job there.
Yeah, and Bix
and the actress and Bix's actress. I don't know her name off the top of my head, but between that and all of the like PTSD stuff they really highlighted in the first 3 episodes, like her having the dream and everything, like she is going through it so far in this season, and that actress is conveying that.
Adria Arjona.
Okay. Well, yeah,
she's dating Momoa right now, by the way.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Good for him. Good for her too. Yeah, great couple.
Lobo and Bix.
Yeah. But she did an amazing job. I'm sure it was a very tough thing to act through. And she did it like an absolute pro.
And we also are going to lose Brasso. I was actually kind of shocked they killed him off this quick.
Me too.
He's going to show up in House of Dragon next. Not Brasso, but the actor. Could you imagine just like Brasso with like his like red suit with the little hat he wore in the finale, like in House of the Dragon? That'd be sick.
Yeah.
But
it's like, where the fuck am I? and then Doctor Strange comes through a portal and says, Brasso, we need you to distract Kang.
He just starts going and like throwing bricks at like Joffrey, and he's like, "Fight the Empire!"
Wait, did you say bricks?
Oh man, are they not supposed to exist in Westeros?
If you say screws, I swear to God, we're never doing another show ever.
Oh man, but Brasso dies. Cassian gets to him. I thought he was going to escape, but also Brasso did something else noble here, where he gives the guy at the farm that was originally helping him out and stuff. He kind of gives him this cover story of, you sold me out, and does like this fake fight with him to kind of be like taking the heat off of him and making kind of saying that you sold me out. Covering their ass a bit, and they give each other like this little nod when that's going on. But yeah, just he kind of goes out being just a really good guy, Brasso.
Yeah. And that's very much what he was throughout the entire show.
Yeah.
You know, whether it was helping Bix or always kind of checking in on Cassian's mom. He was just a great guy. It was a bummer to see him go, but it was I think it was a good choice and a heart-wrenching sort of way to cap off the first arc, because knowing that we're only getting 9 more episodes of the show anyway, it would have been great to see him survive till the end, but it was a very impactful thing, and it just made you hate the Empire even more at the end of the day, which that's basically what they're trying to accomplish here, right? So yeah, it sucks to see him go, but great character, great acting, and he did a great job, and like you said, we'll see him again soon. Won't be too long. So
I really liked the in their little house thing that they had, right, was a little like painting of Cassian's mom.
Yeah,
near the radio. I really enjoyed that. That was cool. All right, let's get to Cassian then. He took on some rebels who were dumb, right? He was supposed to deliver something to one of the other rebels here. And he knows that they weren't there 3 days ago. They're somehow, I guess, like crashed there, right? Like they're kind of something happened to their ship. But the big reveal at the end of episode 2 is that this is Yavin 4 with the 2 temples we see.
Yes. Yeah, it was very cool. I'll admit this whole thing was probably my least favorite aspect of the first 3 episodes, but that little Easter egg thrown in there at the end was definitely cool. And I understand the point of why they did it. You mentioned it before, to sort of highlight the dysfunctionality amongst the rebellion at the moment and how everything is so scattered and like nobody really knows what's up or down, and how we're going to see over the course of this show things become more polished and refined, and the process of getting everybody on the sort of same page. So when they do start this uprising that, you know, begins in Rogue One and then A New Hope, like they're going to be together and sort of not a well-oiled machine, but as close as you're going to get for all of these ragtag rebels. So I get the point of it. I get why they did it. I just think it dragged out a little long. I don't think we needed 2 episodes. I think they just did that to be like, let's get Cassian off the board for a little bit and shine the light more on the wedding and Mothma and all that stuff. And just kind of let's bring him back in episode 3 for this, the big moment that we got at the end. And then going forward, you'd imagine Cassian's going to be sort of the driving force of things.
Yeah, and I think it was nice having them separated and having him make this grand sweep at the end here. You know, he comes in with the TIE fighter, and it's like this cheering moment when he just takes out that transport of Imperials, and you're like, yeah, let's get him. And I also just laughed at the beginning of this whole season when, you know, he has this great conversation with one of the Imperials who's kind of laying it all on the line here to give him this ship. And, you know, he has this great conversation with her, and then he takes off. It's like this very like James Bond-esque opening where you're seeing him in the middle of a mission, completing it. But then he jumps in that ship and he has no freaking clue what he's doing because it's not the right ship he was supposed to get, supposedly, right? He's like, this is not the, and he doesn't know how to fly it. And you think like, oh, this is a cool action sequence where he's gonna just like get out of there, and he just ends up like the door starts shutting. He's like flying around in this hangar, not knowing what he's doing, and he just has to blast his way out. Which I think was a really good time. That was a great start. Then, I think they kind of take him off the board a bit, show the dysfunction, and then have him sweep in and save the day, but still have a loss with Brasso, and B2, who is hanging out with their friends, and I don't know if we're ever getting B2 again. He's going to replace him with K2, I guess.
Yeah, what the hell? He's just there. They just left him behind. Like, oh my God.
And that was the plan, too. The plan was to leave him there with people when this was all going down. So he does have friends and people that he'll be with, and maybe he's safe and will never have another problem in his life. And I hope that for B2.
Yeah.
But it is sad he won't see Cassian for now.
You know, I would love if they did sort of like a little I Am Groot thing with B, just show kind of like what he gets up to after this. That would be cool. I'd love to see that.
That'd
He's
be
just
great.
so nice and respectful and like wholesome, and you just feel so bad for him. He just wants his family, and it's just, oh God, it brings a tear to my eye, man. It really does. Poor little guy.
But that's that. That's every main character, right, that we're talking about here.
Yeah, it kind of sucks that we don't really have more to talk about from the Cassian thing, but it was very just kind of surface level, very pew pew. Just a little bit of filler. Like there was some, like we said, a little bit of messaging there and like wanting to convey some points to you, but it was largely just a way to get Cassian off the board for a little while. So I wish there was like some more deep stuff we could dive into and all that. Like, who knows? Maybe we'll find out that the person Cassian was supposed to meet there was like, you know, an important person, somebody we know, but assuming that we're going to open up with another time skip, probably not. So it just kind of was what it was. But yeah, all in all, dude, just a great start to the season. A little bit slow to start, but a banger third episode, and from here on out, it's gonna be gold. So I'm super stoked.
We are getting Bail Organa again in this show, but he will be portrayed by somebody else.
Yeah, interesting.
I'm guessing Jimmy was busy, is what I guess. But it's Benjamin Bratt, and if you're not sure who he is, if you look him up, he looks very close to Jimmy enough to kind of pull that off as like, oh yeah, that's Bail. But it'll be a little jarring. But
it will be.
It's fine. We'll get through it. But yeah, so if you want to contact us and leave us your feedback, you must contact us.
You must contact me.
At Soups and Sabres on all of our social media, or you can still use the podawakens@gmail.com email for the time being for any Star Wars related emails. But that's that. We'll be back next week to talk Andor episodes 4 through 6. Thank you all for watching and listening along with us. May the Force be with you.